Hello guys and welcome back to Big Brother, and today we are talking everything week 3. I know I'm a little bit late on the video, but we are here and we are going to be talking about all of the major gameplay points, all of the major talking points that happened within this week. Now, this week was run by Lauren. Lauren is the head of household. We're going to talk about that in a second. And let's just say her week was not run by Lauren. This was Vinny's head of household. Vinny's second head of household, you could say. But either way, we're going to be jumping in. I'm going to be discussing what I've been seeing. Now, I watched this entire week after it had all played out and after I'd seen everything play out on Twitter. So let's just say I'm going to be pointing out some inaccuracies and some things that weren't seen and some storylines that weren't necessarily brought up within the episodes themselves. So if you guys are excited, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Let's get into the video. So let's talk about the aftermath of Amy leaving last week. On her way out, she called Jimmy a snake and a liar, which I thought, wow, okay, that's a lot of energy for someone that's just been evicted from the house. But either way, this has obviously caused a rift between Jimmy, Mickey, and Morgan, because Mickey and Morgan feel like he didn't listen to them, he didn't even consult them, he didn't do anything to try and reassure them that they are still working together in some way, shape, or form. So I have to say, Jimmy's decision to target Amy last week was a little bit misguided, I feel like. I think Amy would have been a number for him potentially down the line, but equally, what are you going to do? She was against Will, and Will's a better ally for Jimmy at this point in time. So therefore, he had to get rid of her, I guess. I think my opinion on his head of household is definitely changing somewhat. I think Amy was an easy vote out, but I don't feel as harshly about it as I did when I actually watched it. I think that he did a good job of making sure that the people that were nominated were people that we could afford to lose. Do you know what I mean? Apart from Will. I would like Will to have stayed, obviously. So the veto competition was a really underwhelming one. I have to say, I find the true false ones quite boring, especially when it's one of those ones that could have been done live. I think when it's those bigger ones and there's big set pieces and it takes longer, then those kind of competitions, I will happily watch the edited version. But when it could have been over in like 3 rounds and it was quite quick, I feel like they could have just done it on the episode and it would have been fine. And then we could have had more gameplay in this episode rather than wasting so much time on the twins, who are the most annoying people in the world. Their voices literally grated me. They spoke about, I don't know, their dad with polka dots or spotted underwear. And I just got bored. I was very bored watching this head of household competition because so many people were just out immediately. It's a true false question. And if you put false and it's true, then you're just out. And I was like, oh, it's not even like first to 5. That's a bit shit. That's a bit boring if you ask me. But anyway, it is what it is. The person who ended up winning was Lauren, and I feel like she kind of fluked a win here. She didn't really do anything that made me go, oh yeah, she definitely deserved this. It was definitely a fluke. And it was her against Mickey, and knowing how Mickey handled her head of household in week 4, let's just say it was a lose-lose situation. So, realistically, Lauren is the head of household now. Oh, is she going to make good decisions? No. So before we get into Lauren making her decisions, let's talk about some final 2s that have cropped up, apparently. Now, Vinny has made a final 2 with everybody, including Adrian's bread roll, and the one that was revealed is apparently on day 9, Vinny and Lauren made a final 2 together. So that means, as far as I'm aware, Vinny's got a final 2 with Zach, Vinny's got a final 2 with Kelly, Vinny's got a final 2 with Lauren, and probably numerous other people as well. Vinny is in a very, very good position in this house where everybody seems to be under his spell, and there's like a few dissidents that don't necessarily trust him and want to take a shot at him. Again, this will play out more in week 4, but for now, he's definitely got a lot of people under his spell that don't even realize it. And Lauren is one of them. However, the other final 2 that I wanted to talk about was Rachel and Ava. Now, Rachel just lost her ally, Amy, and now she's got her ally, Ava. And I have to say, I kind of like these 2. I think the more I see of Ava, the more I actually like her vibe. I like her. I think that she's interesting. She's a fun competitor. Everybody seems to like her, which makes me feel like she's going to be the double eviction. her and Rachel could be the double. And that would really upset me. I seem to lose my favourite in the double every single year. I mean, I've seen 24, 25, 26, 27 now. And 24, we lost Michael, my fave. We lost Blue in 25. And she was one of the only people keeping the game interesting. Then we had 26. Angela went home. And also Leah. So I feel like the whole thing is just an absolute mess. But it is what it is. You know what? Double evictions. Cool. We'll see how it happens in this series. When you're a head of household, the one thing that you have to do as the bare minimum is hear people out and show some kind of interest in people. Watching Lauren blatantly ignore two people that were sat trying to plead their case to her frustrated me to no end. She did it with Keanu and she also did it with Ashley. And I'm assuming that she did it with other people that she's not that close to as well. We just saw Keanu and Ashley. So I feel like this was an incredibly rude move. And this easily could have put her in a bad stead moving forward. If she did that to both Ashley and Keanu, what if both of them make it past this week? What if one of them becomes head of household and one of them remembers how you treated them in that interview? She literally was, they were talking, and she's just staring at the cameras, being like, yeah, yeah, no, I totally get that, yeah. It was just so disinterested, dispassionate. It was like she'd already made her mind up, but from what I know from feeds and from Twitter, she couldn't make her mind up all week. She had no clue what she was going to do at any point in time. So you should be listening to people who are giving you ideas, who are giving you thoughts, feelings, whatever. No matter how you feel about the people, you could hate somebody but still hear them out. That's the least you can do as the head of household. Obviously you don't owe it to anybody, but I'm just saying, if I was head of household, I might hate you, but I'm gonna hear you out. It might fall on deaf ears, but I'm gonna make you feel like you're secure. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna lull you into a full sense of security so that I can get rid of you, and it's gonna hurt even more. Maybe that's a little bit psychopathic, but that's just how I roll things around here. So obviously Lauren was umming and ahhing and I don't really know what to do. I'm not sure who to target. I'm not sure where to go. And Vinny's sort of like whispering in her ear like a little snake, like, you need to do this. You need to do that. And I just found it very frustrating. I found it frustrating because we'll talk about it later, but Vince then tried to downplay how he's playing the game. And I was like, bro, just accept it, please. Just accept it. And I'm fairly certain he did in a confessional, but like either way, I'm just sort of like, oh, bro, just stand on business, stand on your business and go about your business and be confident about it. Be confident, okay, please, because it's frustrating when you're not. So when nominations roll around, the three people that were nominated were Will, Kelly, Keanu. And immediately I'm thinking, Lauren, you're playing a very, very safe game this week. You're making no big moves. You're making literally nada. You're making no ripples in the house. You're just nominating three people who have already been nominated before. And if anything, you're just nominating the people that Jimmy nominated the week before. Kelly, she already won a blockbuster. She could win again. Kelly won the veto last week. No, Keanu won the veto last week. Kelly, I don't know. I've lost the track. Kelly was on the block week 1 and she won the blockbuster. Kelly was on the block last week? Yes. And then she took herself down with the power. Yeah, sorry, that was what I was missing. I was like, well, how did she get down from the block? Anyway, makes sense. But either way, these three are such boring nominations. Even Will was absolutely fuming with this. And I thought, you know what? Fair enough. You have a right to be. Because I'd also be angry if I was up on the block for a second week in a row. Just because I'm a good pawn. Pawns go home in this game. They do. They are sacrificed for the greater good because, oh, they could be dangerous down the line. Well, they're not dangerous right now, are they? Oh, God. Anyway, either way, I'm gutted to see Keanu on there. I have to say, Keanu's just bumbling nature in this game and the fact that he blurts things out. He's incredibly socially inept. And the fact that he is a bad player, but wins challenges, I'm kind of here for it. I'm kind of here for the chaos that he brings to the house because everybody hates him. Everybody despises this man. And I am on the side of people who everybody hates. Like Angela last series. Everybody hated her. I was on her side. Okay? I'm here for it. I'm here for it, okay? So, moving into the second episode, which I'm sorry, there was a lot of wasted time in this episode on the whole movie situation. I understand you have to do that, but like usually they wait until it's like top, what, 8? And then they do that kind of challenge, because I'm not being funny. This was an absolute waste of my time hearing about the bad guys too. But either way, the second episode started with Zach talking about his feelings for Lauren and his acknowledgement of Morgan's feelings for him. And I have to say, I feel like Zach is playing a very dangerous game with both of them. He's trying to flirt with Lauren. Morgan's trying to flirt with him. He knows that Morgan is flirting with him. I don't think Lauren explicitly knows that Zach is flirting with her. And I think it was it Vinny that was talking about the love triangle or something like that? Morgan likes Zach, Zach likes Lauren, Lauren wants to play Big Brother. And I was like, that's the perfect way of explaining it. That is the absolute perfect way of explaining it. Lauren isn't interested in a showmance. She isn't interested at all. She's said that as well. She said that to Zach. So the fact that he's still trying this on is like, dude, give it up. You're not going to wear her down. And if you do, that just looks bad on you at the end of the day. But also, his acknowledgement of not wanting to lead on Morgan made me go, so what are you doing about that? What are you doing about not wanting to lead on Morgan? Have you had a conversation with her? Have you been upfront with her and been like, hey, look, I'm not, I feel like there's something here, but like, I'm not wanting to take it any further. Like, I'm wanting to focus on Lauren potentially. Like, I feel like you need to make that step, make that move, and be the bigger person here, because currently it's just not working for me. So I mentioned earlier that Vince is playing a very, very dangerous game because he's so well connected in this house. This is now causing immense issues for him. He got picked for the veto, and immediately you've got people who are up for veto being like, oh, if you win, please use the veto on me. And he's like, yeah, sure. And the first person that we saw him do that to was Keanu. And I was like, it's a rogue one to pick, but okay, cool. And then Lauren's like, if you win, I need you to, like, keep the veto and keep the nominations the same. And he's like, okay, so if I do that, then I'm going to piss off Keanu. But if I take down Keanu, then I'm going to piss off Lauren. And then Kelly comes up to him and goes, yeah, so you're going to use the veto on me, right? And he's like, yeah, that's definitely going to happen. So now he's in the difficult position of, if he wins veto by accident somehow, he's either got to let down Lauren and Keanu, Keanu and Kelly, or Kelly and Lauren. And honestly, I wouldn't want to upset anybody. So I feel like his best bet is to just throw the competition. But how do you throw a veto without making it look like you threw a veto? That's the real skill. That's the real art when you're playing this kind of game. If you have no chance of going up on the block that week and you get to play veto and people are begging you and you don't want to do anything, how do you do that? How do you get yourself out of that situation? I don't know. I have no clue. But either way, Vince, you're playing a dangerous game. You're walking a tightrope. And at the moment, it's going well. But sometime, that wind's going to kick in. And you're going to start wobbling. And then you might fall off. So, because the veto was themed after the Bad Guys 2, which I haven't even seen the Bad Guys 1. I didn't even realise there was a Bad Guys 1. But Rachel apparently is super ecstatic about Bad Guys. So, yeah, we'll just leave that excitement to her. Everybody competed, and it was one of those, one at a time, go in and complete the challenge, and whoever has the fastest time wins. And I was like, okay, cool. The challenge was a laser maze. They had to get from one side of the room to the other through the laser maze, and I was like, okay, cool. Then, what they had to do was get a item out of the safe and then navigate that item through the lasers, which turned out to be a lot more tricky because I've got to say, the item was the most ridiculous thing ever. The best way I can describe it was like grey massive kryptonite, and the way it was like jutting out everywhere at all different angles. Like, it was an interesting obstacle for them to overcome, but I was almost like, this is tricky. Like, I would get so frustrated with this. I could not do this. But also, I would be the kind of person that'd be like, how heavy is this? Let me just lob it across the room and see what happens. Do you know what I mean? Let's just see what happens. Will I get away with it? I don't know. But either way, the timings for the veto were as follows. We didn't get to see what 4th, 5th, and 6th place were, but 3rd place was Vinny with 10 minutes and 1 second. Then Lauren was in 2nd place with 7 minutes 22, and Keanu was in 3rd with 6:54. I have to say, Keanu, keep on winning these vetoes, because if it keeps you in the game and it keeps you causing chaos, I'm here for it. I don't care that he's a competition threat. I think sometimes competition threats have to be entertaining. Jag wasn't entertaining on BB25, so when he kept on winning, it was like, oh, mate, you're only here because Sari begged Matt to use the power to save you. Oh, yawn. Okay, boring. But with Keanu, he's won 2 in a row now, and I am just... Well, he hasn't won. He's only won 1, but the other one was won for him. And I have to say, I'm just living for the chaos that he's causing, because it is highly entertaining. So this was where a lot of stuff was cut out, and I've seen all of it. Well, not all of it, but I've seen a lot of it shown up on Twitter. People talking about it, people discussing it. And it was basically all to do with who Lauren was going to nominate. And it obviously came down to Adrian and also Ashley. And there was a lot of stuff cut. Ashley spent ages talking to Lauren and trying to dissuade her from nominating her, and trying to be like, yo, I'm the worst person to put up there, don't do it, etc, etc, etc. Put up Adrian instead. And all of that was cut out of the episode. So I was like, okay, it seems like Lauren made her decision quite easily. But Lauren was umming and ahhing for days about this. Was literally sat there, confused about what to do. And it was only when she decided that she was going to do Adrian instead that it was like, oh, fantastic, I finally have this idea. Brilliant. Oh my goodness. Amazing. But like, the episode made it seem like she just came to that conclusion very quickly. No, it took ages. There was one moment where Ashley's just in the bathroom talking at Lauren, and Lauren's just looking in the mirror like, oh, can this girl leave me alone, please? Please. Like, honestly, Ashley, I think she's playing a good game. I kind of like her. I find her very entertaining, and I have to say, you got to stand her at the end of the day. You have to. So another very, very interesting thing that happened in this episode was Rachel's warning to Lauren. I have to say, I wasn't expecting Lauren to say this kind of thing, but she's been walking in numerous times on Vince and Lauren having just secret conversations about her, about other people, and she's clocked that their alliance is a lot closer than they give out to the public. Do you know what I mean? Like, that they let the other housemates see. So therefore, she basically went to go see Lauren and went, hey, I think that Vince is trying to take over your HOH. I think he's trying to drip feed information into your ear, etc, etc, which he absolutely is doing, and it's been explicitly clear on feeds and all over Twitter that that is exactly what he has been doing this week. But Lauren, she's too oblivious to notice, because, oh, Vince is my final 2. I trust him, etc, etc. It's like, well, yeah, I get that you trust him, but equally, he could still stab you in the back at some point. And then what are you going to do? He's running your head of household because he knows he can. He's nominated who he thinks we need to get rid of, and you need to not do that because you need to make your own mark on the game. I'm sorry, but I completely agreed with what Rachel said. And then Lauren's like, oh, I didn't really appreciate the fact that Lauren said that. And then Lauren's like, well, I didn't really appreciate that Rachel said that. How dare she say that to me? Huh, maybe I'll just nominate her instead. I was like, oh, give it a rest, Lauren. Actually, give it a rest. First of all, you don't have the balls to nominate Rachel. You don't. You just don't. So get that idea out your head right now. Second of all, you're just pathetic. You are just a little puppet being played by Vince. Just like, that's literally all you are. So what's going on here? Sort yourself out, please, Lauren. Sort yourself out, because this head of household, albeit successful for you somewhat, it's an absolute travesty for your game. And then Lauren goes back to tell Vinny, yo, Rachel's coming after you. First of all, that's not what she said, Lauren. Thank you very much. You're putting words in her mouth. And second of all, Vinny's now like, oh my God, she's after me. And I'm just like, oh, do you know what? We need to stop the season here. We need to stop the season here. No, I'm really enjoying it, actually. I am vibing with it. Even though I'm like really behind. I haven't watched any of week 4, but I've been keeping up with it on feeds. So, you know what? Craziness. Absolutely crazy. This season is just, I don't know what to think. I don't know where it's going. And I think that's what is nice. It's a little bit more unpredictable. So we finally had a veto meeting that went relatively smoothly. I mean, we've had 2 veto meetings that have gone to absolute shit with the whole revelations of, oh, Kelly's got a secret veto. Oh, Jimmy's gonna target Keanu. Oh, brilliant. But this was fairly bog standard. It was fairly basic. Lauren did nominate Adrian as a renom when Keanu took himself down, which obviously he was going to do. He ain't pulling a Tucker and taking Kelly down, for Christ's sake. So therefore, Adrian is now sat on the block against Kelly and Will. I think this is a very, very bog standard safe 3 to nominate. I mean, they're all 3 people that have been nominated before. This keeps Lauren somewhat safe. It doesn't piss anybody else off. And so far, I'm fairly certain the only people that have been on the block are the people that have gone home. Keanu, Will, Adrian, and Kelly. I think there could be somebody else, but... Oh, and Ashley, obviously. Ashley was on at the start. So there's a lot of people in this house that have never even sniffed the block. And I have to say, maybe we need to start putting them up. Let's get them actually playing a game, do you know what I mean? Because some of them are just sitting back thinking this is Love Island. Oh, Riley. So one thing that I've become increasingly aware of this season is the divide in the house. And again, it's happened so early on, and I really didn't expect that. I think last season, the divide was always a bit like, oh, there's like small groups of people. But this is like half and half the house. Okay, you've got one side, which is what I like to call Will's side, where it's Will, well, I guess it's more Rachel's side. Rachel, Will, Jimmy, Ashley, Morgan, Mickey, and Ava. So that's 7 of them. I don't think I've missed anybody out. I could be wrong. And on the other side, you've got Lauren, Catherine, Riley, Kelly, Zach, Vince, Adrian. And then Keanu's like kind of in the middle. I think Keanu actually more aligns with Jimmy's and Rachel's side than anything. But like there is definitely a clear divide and 2 separate groups, which is very interesting because I did not expect this kind of a divide to form. Usually it's like girls, boys sometimes, but there's like a weird mix of both sides having odd choices, like Will being aligned with all the girls and Jimmy. That's strange to me. I really thought that he would have been more on the boys' side, but I'm kind of here for him being on the right side of history. And then you've got people like Lauren and Catherine who are like, yeah, women, but allowed themselves to be controlled by the men. So I don't really know what the vibe is with them. The whole vibe of the house is just weird at the moment. And I feel like after next week, it's going to be really interesting to see how the alliances start to splinter. Because this week, it was a safe, like, vote out. And I feel like it hasn't really changed the house that much. But next week, I feel like whoever goes home is going to have detrimental effects on the house. So, for some unknown reason, Zach is trying to cause trouble. And I say unknown reason, I know what the reason is. He wants Morgan and Mickey to have issues and to sort of splinter a little bit. And apparently this was a lot bigger on feeds, and apparently Mickey genuinely fell out with... Oh no, Morgan genuinely fell out with Mickey, and therefore they like fractured, but they did come back together and they did talk about it, and obviously we're aware of certain things that happen. But Zach was basically stirring the pot, saying, yo, Mickey knows about us 3 and has been telling people. And Morgan sat there in her head going, well, I told her about that, so why is she going around spreading? Zach's just made up this information, but obviously it's caused Morgan to go into a mind spin. But equally, and this is where the issue lies for me, you cannot be making information like this up without the knowledge that Morgan's probably going to go back and talk to Mickey and be like, yo, have you said this? No. Who told you this? Zach. Why would I talk to Adrian? Why would I tell Adrian this? Why would Adrian then go tell Zach this? Like, I don't understand the rationale here. So it's easily verifiable that this is just bullshit. And I have to say, I don't understand why Zach, Vinny, and Morgan have a final 3. That's like a really rogue mix of people. But I guess Morgan likes Zach. Zach and Vinny are working together, and Vinny's got everyone under a spell. So, you know what? Fair and valid. I have to say... It doesn't make sense in my brain, but when I actually think about it, it makes somewhat of a sense. But then sometimes it's tough to know who's in an alliance and who's not. So I'm very grateful to that person on Twitter who like makes those weekly charts of who's in an alliance with who, because God, it gets confusing. Everybody's just making alliances with everyone for the sake of it. Speaking of making alliances for the sake of it, there was a plan to flip the vote on Will. And the reason why I take note of this and I don't just chalk it up to, oh, this is just bullshit editing from the producers who are trying to make it seem like, oh, Will could potentially go home. The reason why this is important, and I'm bringing it up personally, is because it's going to come into play in like week 4 when Morgan and Mickey find this out. So Zach and Vince were trying to flip the vote on Will and see if they had the numbers to get rid of Will. And I have to say, if they had decided to vote for Will, it would have been a tie break and Lauren would have had to break the tie and Lauren would have sent Will home. So it's interesting to me that they didn't go down that avenue. I think that would have been a very, very interesting eventuality, but equally I wouldn't have wanted Will to go home. I feel like Adrian is an acceptable loss at this point in the series because he's boring. I ain't seen anything from him. In fact, there's something I'm going to talk about in a minute that was like, thank you for showing me some kind of personality in 3 weeks, but like, cool, I guess. So yeah, on the whole, I'm not entirely sure why they didn't vote for Will. It seems like they tried to protect themselves at the last minute and maybe throw some other people under the bus. But there was a plan to flip the vote onto Will, and I'm just glad it didn't go through. Bread Boy. Adrian. I'm lost for words. I'm lost for words. Like I said, you haven't shown me any personality in almost 3 weeks. And then in the episode where you get evicted, you have a date with a bread roll. What looks like a sourdough bread roll. Right. Okay, cool. And then you start carrying it around and caressing it. Like, I'm confused. What is with the bread? What's with the bread? And then he's in the diary room begging Big Brother for a body pillow shaped like a baguette so that and it needs to smell like bread. What are we doing here? I think as a society, we need to take a step back and realise that it is okay to shame people for wanting a bread-shaped body pillow that smells of bread. I think it's okay to shame those people. I'm all for not shaming people when it's relatively normal things, but going on a date with a bread roll, it's just not okay. It's not okay. Was it funny? Absolutely. Did it make you look like a bit of a dip? Absolutely. I feel like, what were you thinking? Well, actually, what were you thinking? Please show me your workings because I can't work it out. Right, it's time to get into the eviction stuff. Blockbuster time. And I have to say, this blockbuster was incredibly frustrating to watch. This was a spot the difference challenge. They had to run into 2 different rooms. They were identical apart from 8 differences. The key word being 8. They didn't know how many there were, so they had to guess how many there were. Kelly put 7, Adrian put 6, and for some unknown, ungodly reason, Will put 16. Now, the rationale for this is, could Will have potentially misheard the instructions, misunderstood the instructions, and thought you had to count the differences, not count the pairs of differences? Which, logically, yeah, that is what you would do. But equally, he put 16, which there were 16 items that were different to each other. Does that make sense? Does that make a little bit of sense? Whereas there's 8 differences. And I feel like that's where he might have gotten confused. It's a shame because he actually would have won it. And then maybe Kelly would have gone home and Adrian would have stayed. We don't know. Well, I think Kelly probably would have gone home actually. But either way, genuinely a surprising outcome. Kelly won Blockbuster again. And it is Adrian and Will sitting on the block, which is tough, but equally, Adrian's getting voted out, so fine, I don't care. So before we get into the whole debacle of the voting, I have to say their exit speeches were cute and sweet and lovely. Both of them stood up and were basically in tears, sobbing, being like, this is so hard, I don't want to go home. I also don't want him to go home. Like, this is just awful situation. And I was thinking, like, we're week 3. We're week 3, guys. What happens when you get to week 8? That's tough. This is not tough. I don't know what's going on here. But either way, it is what it is. I found it very, very entertaining. And then we come to voting. Voting went as follows. Vince walks into the room and is umming and ahhing and Adrian. And I'm like, huh? Didn't you just say you were going for Will? Like 10 minutes before. And this is what I mean by like producer manipulation, making us think that Will's going home, but he's not. It's actually Adrian. But equally, how do they know that? So they're kind of just hedging their bets here. Then Mickey comes in, votes for Adrian. Morgan votes for Adrian. Keanu votes for Will. Catherine votes for Will. Zach surprisingly voted for Adrian. I was like, interesting. Zach and Vince have spoken to each other. Interesting. Riley voted for Will. Jimmy voted for Adrian. Ashley voted for Adrian. Ava voted for Adrian. Rachel voted for Adrian. Kelly voted for Will. So at the end of that, Adrian ended up with 8 votes and Will ended up with 4 votes. And therefore, Adrian has been evicted from the Big Brother house. Now, am I sad to see Adrian go? No, not particularly. I feel like the 3 people that we've got rid of so far, I would have liked to have seen more from Amy, but there are more interesting people in the house. Same with Adrian. I feel like he just didn't really do anything. So, yeah, you made no game moves. You seem to be in no major alliances. You seem to have no connections in the house. Just from what I was seeing on the episodes and what I was seeing on Twitter, like, you had no connections in the house and you're surprised why you were getting nominated. Obviously, you were going to go home. But then, interestingly, he said that he would have targeted Rachel, Jimmy, and Keanu. And then she had to be like, Julie had to be like, you do realise Keanu voted for you to stay? And he was like, really? See, I never knew what was going on in his brain. And I was like, yeah, fair point. He is very, very confusing sometimes. So I will give you that. And I also found it interesting how he sat there and he was like, I don't think Rachel's going to get voted off. I think she's going to be taken to top 2. And I feel like she is going to be used as an example of, well, she's already won, so vote for me. And I was like, that's interesting because depending who she sat next to, people might prefer to vote for Rachel. And honestly, if it was a choice between her and Vinny, I would be voting for Rachel because fuck Vinny. He's been running this game a little bit too nicely for my liking. So before we head off, let's talk about this week as a whole. Let's talk about Lauren's head of household. Was it a success? Was it not a success? Difficult to say. I don't think she ever had a clear target in her head. She said it was Keanu, but then... and then she said it was Will, and then... I never felt like she had a, this is who I want to get out this week. This is the person I'm aiming for. If this doesn't happen, then it's this person. It was always like, oh, well, I'm kind of just nominating people, and then you guys decide. You guys do it. You guys do the work. It's like, what? What? You're the head of household. You make the decisions. It felt like other people were running her head of household. Namely, Vinny, which, honestly, from Vinny's point of view, fantastic gameplay. We saw this a lot in season 26 with Chelsea, controlling Mackenzie's whole head of household, getting her to vote out Leah, which was actually the one person that probably would have helped her win the game. And also, was it Chemo that she voted out Mackenzie? I could be wrong, but either way, Mackenzie was controlled a lot by Chelsea, and we're seeing that from Vinny this season. And it's surprising to me that people are allowing him to get away with this, considering we've just seen a mastermind manipulate the game in such a way in the previous season, and they won. So how are we not more clued into the fact that Vinny's trying to twist and turn and make you do your own thing? But either way, I have to say, I don't think this is the worst head of household that we've had so far, but I don't think it's the best either. Considering what's happening next week, this is 10 out of 10 compared to that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll be back with week 5 as soon as possible. Weeks 5 and 6 and 7, they're going to be a little bit delayed. I'm going to get them up when and where I can, so please stay tuned for those. But obviously with holidays and summer holidays and more holidays, it's tough to find time to do it. So thank you guys very, very much. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode, whenever that may be. But until then, make sure to keep on ranting, and I'll see you guys later. Bye now. See ya.